Ivan sent me this. It's an Amazon promotional video to work at Amazon. And it's this video that is set in their operations facility with a woman who is so excited to be working there because she gets to, in her own words, babysit 800 robots. And she loves her job and is so excited by it. And Ivan sent me a message. This is interesting because this girl's oblivious that robots are about to take her job. And he's not wrong, which is Amazon is advertising, hey, come work for us because this job will exist for I don't know how many more years, but it ain't in 2 digits.
Interesting.
And somebody will need to administer and maintain these robots. But yeah, I'm glad that you're enjoying it. I hope you have a plan because they're trying to get rid of everybody.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be so automated. But even just the current state of their warehouses is crazy, man. It's crazy how many the movement we have, and a person picks it up and puts it on the robot, and then the robot takes it to where it needs to be. And it's like, as soon as they get someone who could pick it up,
yeah.
that person's gone. And she manages the traffic control. That is a job for AI if I ever saw one.
Well, what's interesting is when you said this, I was like, well, but someone will always need to like oil the machines.
Yeah.
But that's not true because you could just have a machine oiler.
Yeah.
And then as long as there was multiple of them, they just go in shifts, including taking care of each other. It's like, yeah, you don't need a human to do that either.
No.
You don't need it for maintenance. You don't need it for traffic control.
This is what happens. This is the whole Andrew Yang thing. I know you haven't heard of him. He's the Democratic outsider coming in who is a techno guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he, I believe, was traveling the country and saw that in a lot of the central parts of the country how they've been decimated by automation. And he's like, I watched him. He's like, call centers gone. You know, like Amazon warehouses gone. Transportation gone. We're talking tens of millions of people that are right now gainfully employed over the next 10-ish to more, 20-ish years, no job. So what happens when we're talking about what might be pushing 10 or more % of the population in the next 10 to 20 years is out of a job through no fault of their own?
Because well, you don't need jobs. What you need is resources.
Yes. And this is what we live in an economy right now where you need a job, and he's trying to push the switch towards resources, towards a resource-based post-scarcity economy.
Exactly. Yeah. If you until AI takes over, if you have
it's going to be a good
robots
run,
and AI
when they're doing all our bidding.
Yeah. The idea that self-driving cars will replace truck drivers, meaning that truck drivers will starve to death. That second step doesn't have to happen. There could just be a world where everybody has enough food and a place to live, and machines actually remove the need to have a job, and you can just pursue creative arts or entertainment, or you can just do nothing, plug into VR and have fun.
And then you get the VR thing. So you get all the physical robots that are taking jobs, but then you're also going to get this weird second layer of software experience, which is now you're in VR, and there are no jobs in VR. And now we're in the Matrix, and Keanu, we need you.
A lot of futurists think
what if Keanu Reeves saves us?
It's a post-scarcity world.
What if actually Keanu Reeves saves us? We go into the Matrix. Keanu doesn't. He's too interested, too cool. Everyone else is in there, and he's got to bust us all out. And this is 50 years from now, but he still looks like he's 35.
You heard it here first. So it's absolutely what's going to happen.
This is the plot of Cyberpunk 2077. He is Keanu
Spoilers.
Reeves. Sorry, I didn't mean that. E3, please don't take this.
No,
video
I
down.
love it. I'm a proponent of that, and I'm a believer of that. I don't think that we need to have jobs. That was just a function.
The argument is that the speed is unprecedented. And of course, yes, you can handle some percentage of the population
it's going to suck.
being
There's
in
going to be
transit.
some friction. Yes.
Well, friction is a nice word, but what that might mean is riots in your city. What that might mean is he's just warning, but that's what happens when people don't have jobs because they can't get money, which means they can't eat. So what do we do in the interim? When they have nothing to lose.
What does he say?
He says, I do not understand the economics behind this. He wants to just hand money out, essentially, $1,000 to each individual, which I was curious about because
Just one time?
Every month, I believe, $1,000 a month to every American citizen, which is, for some people, a reduction in taxes. For some people who don't pay taxes, it's $1,000 a month. But he speaks about, and I can't confirm any of these stats. I'm not familiar. It is an interesting argument that something like more than half Americans do not have the funds if they had a surprise $500 bill right now. They would have to go into credit, which is what they do. And then you get that horrible interest cycle. So he's talking about $1,000 to every person. And he's got an optimistic point of view versus the pessimistic view, which is, oh, people are just going to take it and squander and sit. And his is, no, when you give them more money, they will have more freedom, more opportunity, and they can then apply themselves towards creating for a brighter future as opposed to despair. And
Hasn't Northern Europe run this experiment?
I don't know. The other thing is any sort of comparison with a country like Norway, which has 5 million people, very, very homogenous, to the United States it's a tough.
No, if it worked there,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean it's going to work here. But if it didn't work,
If it did work there, it's going to be
probably
hard.
not going to work
It's
here.
gonna be
That's what I'm saying.
Well, the argument against is that culturally we're one of the more entrepreneurial countries, if not the most on the planet.
Yeah. I don't know the economics,
Yeah.
but that's not a bad platform to run on.
It's a great platform. You look, so that's what
Yeah.
he's seen. I don't think he knew this was going to be the case, but I've watched some of his interviews and how they've evolved. This is a talking point. He calls it the freedom dividend, which is a good word.
Great name.
Yep. So we'll see. He's just he's an outsider candidate. We'll do a breakdown of him. He's raised enough money. He's big on the internet. It is fascinating for me to watch people not come up through the mainstream, which is we could talk about, which is kind of the next point. I think there's this really strong tension between these new forms of media that aren't centralized necessarily and controlled by the people who have used to control media. So that, if you want it, we can jump into.
Sure. I'm just saying if you want a platform that's going to get people to
Yo,
vote for
you want money?
Freedom Dividend is a really good one.
Giving out cash.
Might bankrupt
He
the
should do
country.
a
It might be a
YouTube video.
disaster, but
He should do a YouTube video where he just walks around and how people hand out money to the
Yeah,
homeless, handing out $1,000 to each American. Here you go.
There you go.
Here you go.
There you go.
Here's your freedom dividend.
Yeah.
Here's your freedom dividend. Yeah. And then hopefully that spurs more.
don't know if it will, but it's
Innovation,
a good
productivity.
platform to run on.
There's
Also, fun fact, he can run on that platform and not do it.
you don't have to.
That's what Trump has shown.
Everybody. To
No,
be
no,
fair,
I'm just
you
saying.
could say what you want. You could say
Listen.
what you want while you're running. Yeah.
I wanted him to drain the swamp. I was very excited for term limits. There's been no mention of term limits since.
Did he mention term limits?
Oh, yeah. It was a huge thing. Drain the swamp. Drain the swamp. Term limits. People can only be in government for a certain amount of time.
Really?
That was one of the things he ran on.
No kidding.
Yep.
I bet you he runs 3 terms.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, I actually am I don't really care one way or the other about politics in a
Yeah.
lot of regards, but I thought that was a
Pretty good
promise that I would have liked him to deliver on.
Yeah.
And literally no mention of it since. Just
Scott Adams has an interesting take on it, which is people don't care. You just establish yourself. Nobody cares about that. Nobody feels betrayed. Even the wall is an interesting thing because he's not pushing for a wall in many ways. He's pushing for a steel slatted fence and tougher restrictions. His base doesn't seem to care. And it's because that was only to establish sides and create a mental image of something that felt strong and right. Because if he had said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a multi-pronged approach to immigration. In some areas, there'll be a steel slatted fence. He'd be Bernie Sanders. That's who he would be. And he'd be good on policy, but not effective at moving people. And the imagery of the wall is immediately something you can imagine versus better border security is amorphous and people just stick with what they can imagine.
yeah.
So this is all coming to what I've been thinking about. Perhaps I'm just driving it in that direction. The imagery thing. So unless you have more on this particular topic, I don't want to run you.